We begin Pashas Emor Daf Lamed Aleph. Says their Maimer, a very famous Maimer, a long Maimer, very famous, very sadistic Maimer. Says in the Maimer, in the Pasuk in Pashas Emor, ונקדשתי בתך בני ישראל. From here we learn the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. Sagt der Alter Rebbe, lahovin ma'oloshen tech. What does it mean, betoich? Peter Shaposhet is that it means it's among Zaminyan, betoich. But well, the Alter Rebbe will explain. Apikabole, what's the lashon? ונקדשתי בתך בני ישראל. Kam tzarich lovin ma'amer azal. The Gemara says in Chulin, sheyesh gimel kitas malachim. There's three different kitas of malachim. Kat achas emeres kodesh, kat achas emeres kodesh kodesh. And the kat achas emeres kodesh 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 Hashem tzvois. Dafen verstehen Avedas Hashem. What's the chiluk of these three kitas of malachim? One cat says once, one cat says twice Kodesh, one cat says three Kodesh, like we say. Also, we have to understand what does it mean, Kodesh by nose, Kodesh here, Gadol Peres al Reshe. Understand this, it says in the Makov of Yeshaya Novi that he saw a vision of Srofim Eimdim Imaloi. So we have to understand how could there be malachim higher than the Shekhinah Kavayach? And Nivas about Gvul, how could it be Mimale? Another question is, why does it say Ki imcha mikir chayim? The lashon, the correct lashon should have been Va'ata. What's Ki imcha? Understand this, we have to understand what does it mean, the idea of Kodesh. Kodesh means muvdel, like the Novi Malachi says. Ani a violation. You see that Eibishter is not affected. Kihuzeh and Ayora, he's not affected. There's no difference between before B'riyas Shalom and after B'riyas Shalom. Like we say every morning in davening, in the beginning, right after in Korbanos. There's no difference. It doesn't affect him. The Eibishter is much higher in the world. If it's misasik to be Beirei Lomeis, there's a shina before and after. He's working. What does it mean, Kodesh? This itself means Kodesh. That the Rebbe creating the world is not like an Neshama gives chayes their guf. That the Mahus nefesh is mishlabish in them guf. And the chayis is divided into three parts. There's the chayis in the moichin, and the chayis in the guf and the torso, and the chayis in the feet. Chayis in the head is the highest level of chayis, and the dearest chushim in the face, the or shmir. That's the ultimate. Then there's the chayis in the torso and the lower part connected with the heart, with the midas, and also the hands doing things. It's a little lower than the chushim in the face. Then there's a third level of chayis, which is the raglayim. They're the lowest because they walk. Animals walk. Human walks. There is not so much great chayis like in the other two. Why is this chiluk chayis in these three levels? Because the moich and שבראש get first the chayis, and from a pneumistic level. And then from the Rosh, the lowest level, the Rosh comes into the Guf. That's why the Guf is lower than the Rosh. And the lowest level in the Guf comes into the Raglayim. Therefore, one is lower than the other. So we see there's three general groups. Rosh, Guf, and Raglayim, and everyone has a lot of parts. But in general, three levels because of the different parts of the nefesh which shines in them. The fact that there is Chilukei Madreges, this shows you the chayis and nefesh is nitfis in the guf, and it's lefierech the guf. That's why the moyach, which is a chomer, which is very delicate and much refined, and the rest of the body gets a higher chayes hanefesh. So the idea of pnimi means he's nitfas, and he only comes into the keli what it could handle. But what the Rebbeinu Shalom's mechayel world is not like that. Him is not, his chalkus, everything is the same. And you cannot say by him reish teichen seif bechlal, because it's he who rishim v'ach, and he has the same thing for him. Because he's not nislabish in the elemes, he's much higher, higher. That's why you say anihu. Kedim shenivrei lo, not like the neshama, it comes in a guf. So there's no hischalkus achayis. The hischalkus that we talk about is hislapshus. Because the clay moyach are higher, they have a higher level. This you could only say in the air pnimi that comes in the keli. But by the Rebbe himself is mechaye lomes. Doesn't come be slapshus, there's no shaykhis chalkus. This is the meaning of kodesh, that the Rebbe is higher, even though he gives them life, but it's not be slapshus. Since it's not be slapshus, there's no shinoi by the Rebbe from the creation, but the neshama is affected by the happenings of the guf, because it's nitfus in the guf. Tartziv Beis, that's the $1 million question. Via say lomes. There is this chalkus madrigus. If it doesn't come from the Rebbe, where does it come from? There's this chalkus madrigus in kids. Like it says a pasuk in Keheles, Govoya mel Govoya Shemer. Elam Haza, we know the famous Chilukim madrigus, the diamond, the inanimate object, the vegetation, animals, and human. And each one has less chayis than the other. So there is these lapses. Also, we have to understand the famous pasuk in Shaya, brought down the end of Pirkei Avos, Brosiv Yitzativ Afasisiv. In them, there's three general elomes, Bri Yitzir Asiyah, and in them there's a lot of pratim. In the other names, besides Bri Yitzir Asiyah, there's a name, Gan Eden Hoelia, and Gan Eden Atachta, and Elam HaYitzirah, and Elam Haz and Elam HaYisiyah, just like a human beings. Also, we found that Elam Hazeh, which is in the world of Asiyah, it says, Varetz Adim Raglo, connected with Raglai. Gan Eden Atachta was Yitzirah, is like the goof, like the torso, there's the emotions. And we know also what it says in Zehar, Shit Sfira Mekanim be Yitzirah, that the Gilu, the Midas of the Rebishter, is a Yitzirah. So, and the Alter Rebbe adds that in the Shisha Midas that shiny Yitzirah, there's also Moichin Hamislapshim the Midas. Both Gan Eden Elyon, there's the world of Bria. There's Chabad alone higher. And there you have the Neshamas Yeshiv and Enemies of Ashkina. And it's like the Rosh. So we see that there is this chalkus. Wherever we turn, there's this chalkus. We see that the chayes that comes to the Eibush and the Elomis. And the hischalkus comes because of this, the kalim of Bria are more refined, etc. So there is Islam. And there's a mefurish Gemara in Brachos. They compared Amshachas Achayis for the Eibushten. So Amshachas Achayis for Nefesh and Guf. The Gemara says in Brachos, clearly, Ma Kodesh Baruch Hu Memali Kol Olam Afan Neshama Maleis Kol Aguf. So you compare the Neshama to the Eibishter, and just like the Neshama is nitfas l'chayre, the Eibishter is also nitfas. And we find in Medrash Tilman the pasuk Baruch Nafshi. So the Medrash Tilim writes, Mo Anefesh Memales Aguf Kach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Memales Olam. So we learned that neshama is mala the guf be slapshus and fisher, and you compare the Eibishter in the Elomes in the world the same way. This is opposite than what we said in Sif Aleph, that the Eibishter is kodesh umuvdel. Shalei alidei slapshus. So there's a contradiction from the Gemaras and the Midrashim, but the fact what we're learning, And be'emes, it's a klal in zeya. Ratan and Tanya. Iu tofis bechulu olmi. The leis man, the tofis be. No one could comprehend the Rebbe. So there's no islapshus. Here comes the answer. There is chayis in the world that is mislabish and is affected. And it's like chayis on nefesh b'guf. But that's ziv shchina, a ziv from shchina, a ray and light from shchina. And this ray is memali kolam. So the chayis pnimi is memali, and that comes b'chalkos to every world according to their level. Gadei no elyon like this, and they tachten lower. And this is called Alma d'Isgalyon de Zeyah. Save if Kol Alman is Alma d'Iskasha, the hidden worlds. But this Ziv is Memali Kol Alman. And that's why we say, O mipsori egezelika. From my flesh I see God, I see godliness. Because it's similar to Memali Kol Alman. What do we see? Just like we see in our flesh, that there is a soul giving life to the guf. And when the nefesh leaves Chaz v'sholom the guf remains like a stone, like a piece of meat. And we see it also by night when a person goes to sleep. The neshama leaves the body and only a ray of life is left. And sleep is 1/60th of death. That's why every morning we make Baruch Ato Hashem HaMaz and Neshamas and Gorim Meisi. Because every day there's a new chayah. So even though we don't see the neshama, we don't know how it looks, but we know there's a neshama. We feel what the neshama is doing. Because the guf, mitzad atzmei, on its own, is only a piece of meat. Like we see when a person, chas v'shalom, passes away. So the nefesh, we know, even though we don't see it. This is what he says, we see what the Rebbe should give life to the world, just like we know the nefesh through its work in the guf. We know the chayes and eilomes, they have it. And the nivroim, in a higher world, feel it more. This is the pshat. Omipsori erzelika. Just like mipsori. Just like I see my neshama, I see godliness, the chayes of Memali Kol Alman in the world. And there is 3 madreges. There's Gan Eden Elyon, Gan Eden Atachton Masa. That's why it's called Memali Kol Alman. So we have the answer to the stira. Kodesh, Sevev is higher than his Chalkos. Not like the neshama in the guf. Memali is like the neshama in the Says he further in Siv Gimel that this chayes that comes in Memale is only a ray of the Shechina, but the Rebbe himself is not mislabish. And even the ray of the Shechina that comes into the world, this ray, the higher part of the ray is Sefer Kol Almin. This is what's explained in the beginning of the Maimer. When the Rebbe gives life to the world, it's not like an Neshama. The Rebbe is not mislabish is Sefer Makiv. And this order comes in Memali Kol Almin is only a ziv from Sefer Kol Almin. So that's why in the Rebbe is not shaykh hashinoi from what happens with the Bria. Not like an Neshama that's effective in Mikriya Guf, because he's in the Guf. So by Sefer Kol Almin, there's no difference from one part of the world to the other part of the world, because he's not in the Elomis. We even have this when a person, there's every limb gets its highest protim and malakal almin. The brain gets more than the torso more than the feet. But then there is the idea that a person is alive. That there's no difference from one ava and the other ava because it comes from a higher part of the neshama that's not nitfus in the guf. It's also explained the Gemara in Yuma that Oig Melech HaBoshon and a Bar Mitzvah Bocher have the same shear to eat Yom Kippur, to be over Isser Kodesh. So the question is, Oig Melech HaBoshon needs a lot more sustenance. So why is it the same shear? What explains, to quench the hunger, Oig Melech HaBoshon needs a lot more. But to calm him down, they need the same. It's explained in my mother for the Frierdiker Rebbe that for Chayis Kloli, that he's alive, that's the same Oig Melech HaBoshon and a Bar Mitzvah Bocher. Because that's like Seviv Kol Almin, and that connects the neshama in general to the guf. Anyways, going further here in the Maimed, this is what it says: only the hoidoi from Shemay is in Etzel Shemoyim, and it gets divided in different parts because it's the ray of Shemoy, and then it's for Shemoyim says the Tzemach Tzedek is Gan Eden HaTacht and Gan Eden HaElyon. Like it's known in the Pasuk Mili Bashamayim, the Alter Rebbe used to say, one's Gan Eden HaTacht and one's Gan Eden HaElyon. But Shemoy itself is Kodesh Umuvdel. This is what it says, Ein Arechai Lechodei, which is much higher. It is Ilah Vol, cause and effect. The Ilah, the cause, is Be'erech, the effect of all. Seichel makes midas, it's the fierech, and the midah makes machshova. The Rebbe should say, and you can't understand them, not like an owl can understand the ilotz ein arech lecha, and this is kinisko shmelevadi, he's much higher. It's yeshmiyai, and that's why it says ani availation hisi. Before creation, after creation, the same thing, because it's much higher. This is what it says, the Pasuk in Yirmiyah, Elikim Chayim Umelech Elam. Because there's Ischalkus. Ischalkus means there is halbosha, it comes into the world. So Elikim Chayim, it only comes from the level of Melech Elam, for the level of Malchus. And from there comes the Ishtalshus, from there becomes Ilov Olu L'maylo Mata. But the Eibishter himself is much higher than the world. The Alter Rebbe brings a moshel of the Mshol on the Adnus of Amelech of Anshe Medina. He doesn't give him anything. He gives them his name. They're under his rulership. He doesn't give them something. Same thing as Lamaila. Chai said the Eibishter comes from Malchus. And that hovers over, but from Malchus comes an that's the Tzamtzem in the three general categories, Gan Eden and Gan Eden HaTacht in this world. And we see from the Melucha that it's Makif, like we said, that Eibish's Melucha Makif only is Ziv and Heide from Shemay from Malchus comes down in the world to be Koyach HaPeil Benifel. So we see that even Shemay is Kodesh, that's what we see in davening, Ata Kodesh v'Shimcha Kodesh. Even Malchus is also Kodesh. This is the explanation of the big Dalet of Echad, that's Malchus. So if it's Malchus, why do we say Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Elam Voed? The Dalet is Malchus. That is, the big Dalet from Echad is Etzem Malchus, higher than Islam's. So they're all bottled. Mizrach, Ma'ir, Tzofen, and Dharma bottled with Metzias. There's no Metzias over there. And there's the lower level of Mimali Kolaman of Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Elam Voed. It comes down to the world. There's just Chalkus. That's Mimali Kolaman. There's Gan Eden HaTacht, and there's Gan Eden HaElyon. There's Berosiv, Yitzarti, Vasisiv. These are the three words in Baruch Shem. Shem, Kived, Malchusay. Leilam Voed, the Mimali Kolaman comes from the big Dalet, which is Etzem HaMalchus, which is high. This is the answer to the beginning of the Maimah. Why does it say Ki Imcha Mikir Chayim, not Ki Ato Mikir Chayim? As if it would say Ki Ato Mikir Chayim, you would think the Etzem of the Eibishter is Ilavol. But the Eibishter can't come Ilavol. He's much higher. That's why we say Ki Imcha Mikir Chayim, but the source, whereas Ilavol is only Imcha Tofel Bottle to the Eibishter. It's a much lower level. It's Alma, there's Galetz and Malikol Alma. Now, of there you could see Ilavol. So you see, Malikol Alma is Ziv Ashkin. It's only a Ziv in the Rebishter. And there's a great Tzimtzum in the whole. Malikol Alma is only like a drop of water to the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean. And really even less. There could be this little droplet, could be a mocker for his tassels. And this ziv is bottle for the mocker. Like a yam to a Okeanos, if the Okeanos, the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean were bleakable. Could you imagine how bottle the tipa would be? And could be till ziv hashemesh, but the Rebishter alone is ein arechach. This is the pshat for Nato Rishon Vato Achre. Then we say we balo dechel and a melech. Ato is Rishon Achre, and there's no difference. The higher levels and the lower levels. Melech comes. Elikim Chaim comes from Melech. So we see that Kodesh is the Eibishter higher without being the Islapshus in the world. Even though there is Islapshus, that from the Ziv. But Moshe Etzem the Eibishter is Kodesh, and even Shmei is Kodesh, even the Etzem HaMalchus is Kodesh. Like it says, Ki Nisko Shmei Levadei, that only Hoydoi of Shemoi is Islapshus and Eretz V'Shemoi. Yeshua Koyach.